I'd like to recognize our Honorable Mayor, Lucy Tondro, Councilwoman Keys, Councilman Bienemy, any other elected official, and everyone, all the business owners and civic-minded individuals. I want to, welcome you all. This is a very important event, or this workshop for the city of North Miami. With all the data and all the data, as we say, that we have gathered over the years, we have done all these studies with several of our elected regimes, and all the studies have said that North Miami is built up. And it doesn't take anybody to, or anything specific to recognize this. I've been here for close to 20 years. It's the same downtown. You go down the street on 125th Street, which is supposed to be our anchor, our main corridor. What do we have? Just a transient, people passing through the city of North Miami. I think with all the studies we have done over the past 20 years, we want to, I think it's time that we do something. I know the community planning department, under Tanya's leadership, has taken ownership of this. And we would really like, the business owners. This is not Aleem's North Miami. This is not Tanya's North Miami. This is all of us here. The business owners and the community has to put some sort of claim or stake in this whole process. In order to revitalize our downtown, prioritize our projects, and have something substantial, a livable downtown, a walkable downtown, a downtown that will attract people, a downtown that will attract businesses, vision. All the planning and studies have been done over and over again. The city has spent, Tanya could give you all the stories and the money that was spent. I think it's time that we have an action plan. We come up with it, with a process, and this action plan will prioritize all the projects in order of priority. When I say prioritize, in order, the pecking order. The other thing that this will do to start the revitalization process is with our downtown development, which is the main vision of our commissioners, our mayor and commissioners. And again, this drive and the input from all the businesses and owners here, as I said, is not staff doing it, is not our elected officials, but we need the input from the business and also the residents, because we want ownership into this project. All right? I think I want to emphasize and stress that. No more studies, and it's time that we put something in action. It's time that we put all these plans and start doing something substantial. Let's attract, different types of businesses. We have done all the economic development processes and all of that. But let's start something that is concrete. Let's start building something with increased density. Let's start putting in restaurants. Let's start attracting businesses. Not only talk about Miramar and Tamarack and other cities. This is all we hear. Other cities is doing this. Other cities is doing that. What is North Miami doing? Other cities has come and took some of our plans that we put on our shelves and implemented. And we are lagging behind, guys. Okay? And I cannot emphasize, the importance of this project, but, I think it's not only my passion as the interim city manager, but, the passion of Tanya Sejuru and her team as well. And with that, I really thank you for your input tonight. Thanks.
I know we have the mayor and several other elected officials here. She's eating. So I'm going to give her an opportunity to say a few words. Okay, she's taking it. We also have Councilman Bienemy. We're in District 3. This is Councilman Bienemy's district, so I'll give him an opportunity to speak about his involvement in the process, his vision for the downtown and the district. And also we have Councilman Keys. The downtown is in District 2. Did I just say Councilwoman Keys, my apologies. And so we'll give you each an opportunity to speak before we begin the presentations. Good evening, everyone. When you live in the city for so long and each day you're passing by, you see the same image over and over again, it's lacking of progress. Some time ago, somebody had a vision and talked about it and just leave it as that. During my campaign, I had talked about the necessity for us to take those things off the shelves, take out the dust that has been collecting for years and make it move. I challenge staff to make it happen. We have traveled in different cities to look at their other downtown and see how we can implement ours as well. Thank you for staff, Ms. Sejour particularly, for her diligence, for her passion on this one. And thank you also for Keith and Snarls for reviving this entire thing. And I know that I'm not a talker. We're not here to talk. We're here to see vividly what our downtown is going to be looking like. And as we said, it's not anybody's downtown. It's the city's downtown. We want to make sure that the residents has their grain of salt, because the success of this project depends on you also. But what you have to keep in mind is, like, as we bring businesses in North Miami, your tax base is going to go lower because we're going to have the tax incentive of the businesses. We're going to have tourism in the city. We are going to have a living city, not a quiet city or a village. So we're going to start moving, and we're going to continue to move with the downtown. And I know that I have already nominated my representative to be in the day pact, which is very important because it's going to be you guys that are going to report to us in order to let us know what's happening, and you're going to be the eyes and ears of this development. So those of you who already been nominated in the day pact to represent us, I say thank you to you in advance, and I know that the passion, the vision is there, and we're going to make it happen together. Mr. Yenemi.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. And this is a great pleasure for me tonight to welcome you all for coming in District 3. This is where you are right now. Welcome to District 3. And we want to thank staff for putting this event together. That's our second event about our downtown. And as the mayor said, it's not about the mayor's downtown. It's not about my or Councilwoman Keys downtown. It's the city of North Miami downtown. And we are very, very, very happy to see the input of everyone, elected officials, staff, residents, businesses, and we're gonna work together to put this project and make that happen, make that project happen, and it's gonna be for the goods of everybody. Again, welcome, and let's start working and make sure we're not talking about a plan, we're not talking about studies, but we're talking about action, about the beginning of to see movement about our downtown. Again, thank you.
Welcome, everybody. I just want to thank staff who've been working really hard to get this off the ground. We're looking for a vision. We need all of the citizen participation. We're looking for your input. This is about all of us, and we want to do what everybody wants. Downtown is not just about 125th Street. It's going to go above, beyond. We're hoping it will extend up Dixie Highway, and my vision is also to bring our downtown into this area, which is Councilman Bieneme's, but we've got a beautiful area down there, and my vision is to build a beautiful section down here also, so it's not anybody's district. And just thank you for being here, and we'll hear professionals have to say. And anybody with any input, please call our offices and let us know what you think. Thank you.
I want to thank the council members for their remarks. Just to recap, I want to see with just a show of hands for the folks that have attended the previous forums. Okay, this is good. This is good. I saw like 3 or 4 hands, which means that this group is a new group, and folks that are interested in learning about the process, if you hadn't attended before, now here's another opportunity for a bite at the apple. Just to recap on how we got here. Where did all of this come from? How did this evolve to the point that we're at right now? Back in 2013, the Mayor and Council adopted a downtown and major corridors master plan. And in that plan, there was a very vivid vision that talked about the need for North Miami to redevelop its downtown and its commercial corridors. The city currently only has 1% vacant land remaining for development. So from a strategic standpoint, the plan pointed out that we've been built out. We are at the point that you consider the city built out. So in order to stay relevant, in order to have a long-term vision for future growth, there were recommendations placed in there as how North Miami could redevelop its downtown and the major commercial corridors. So at the next phase, beyond just the vision, the Mayor and Council charged staff and said, we don't want a book that sits on the shelf. We've had studies upon studies upon studies, and at this point we need to be in implementation mode. So at that junction, staff partnered with Keith and Schnars. Keith and Schnars was actually the author of the Downtown Master Plan itself. Staff partnered with Keith and Schnars for the second phase. So now we're at the action plan phase. Now that we know what strategies are needed to transform the downtown, how do we prioritize those strategies? Do we bring the large things on first and leave the small things on last? Do we make the major expenses now? So as a part of the action plan, we've been looking at how to prioritize those strategies for implementation for the next 5, 10 to 20 years. And what's the cost? What's the cost of development? Any city that projects growth has to have a fiscal plan. What's the cost? How do you pay for it? Where's the revenue source? So we partnered with Strategic Business Group, and we have Mr. Bob Gray that's here. And Bob was a part of the original economic analysis that was done for the Downtown Master Plan. So now that you know the cost, now that you know the prioritization, what will it look like? And we've partnered now with the Cordino Group that's working on the conceptual plan for the downtown. Most great downtowns that you've seen, Delray went through a revitalization process. Fort Myers too went through some type of renaissance. Miramar, all 3 cities had a plan. All 3 cities had a vision. All 3 cities worked towards implementing that plan. So North Miami pretty much is in that mode of planning at this stage to implement the vision, the master plan vision. That is why you're here tonight. And several of the council members spoke very eloquently about the need to transform the downtown, the fact that they don't own the downtown. It's a community process. Staff doesn't own the downtown, and we've been careful throughout the entire process to make sure there were outreach efforts and community touches, so at least the business community and the residents would have an opportunity to have input and to have their say. We don't believe there's a magic bullet and a silver bullet to fix North Miami's downtowns. There are opportunities, there are constraints, and we recognize that. It's been done before in other communities, and we're saying it is possible here. We're absolutely saying it is possible here. And with the partnership of the community and the partnership of government, we believe that we can bring that transformation to downtown and to North Miami. So with that said, I want to introduce our team. Before I even introduce the team, I want to recognize the students. As a part of the process, there was a call for ideas. On staff, we have Mr. Kent Walia that prepared a call for ideas for us, because we felt in transforming the downtown, there's an opportunity to bring the university environment in. We have such great talents in our community, the architectural community, urban design, amongst the student environment. So we had a call for ideas, and lo and behold, we had over 20 students that said, we want to participate in this transformation of the downtown. There's several civic spaces in our downtown that we recognize we can have that creates a sense of place. North Miami right now doesn't have an ideal brand or specific image, and we recognize that through this process we can hone down and really create a place that's unique in this region. So what you see here on display, and I hope at the end of the process you'll take some time to look at the work that's done by the university community. These students are energized. These students are on board, and I think it's really a testament to the excitement and momentum that's building for this entire process. It's a community process, but it's also a regional process. The region has partnered with us and said, we believe in your vision and we think it can happen. And here's our depiction of these civic spaces. So with that, I'm going to introduce our team, our incredible team, our consultants. We have Mr. Alex David that will be doing a presentation on the conceptual plan. And Alex is an urban planner with the Cordina Group. We also have Keith and Schnars. We have Miss Debbie Love. She's an urban designer with Keith and Schnars. Mr. Bob Cambridge, for those of you that attended the previous forum, you remember Bob is our charismatic facilitator that was able to work the crowd and get the ideas going. And there was a dot survey that was done at the last venture, and at this point he's going to unveil the results of those surveys. So I know everybody's excited to find out what the tally and the results look like. So you'll hear from Bob Cambridge again. And last but not least is the money man. You'll hear from Mr. Bob Gray from Strategic Planning Group. And Bob is an important piece of this entire puzzle. I was speaking to Councilman Keys before and mentioning that he had done the economic development assessment. So he has a good pulse on some of the previous studies that we've done as a city, the Buxton study, also the ULI study. He has a good pulse on the marketing studies that were done for the city. What types of businesses work here? What's the demand that we have? What's the supply? What's the deficit? Bob's done that empirical study, and he can come today and share those numbers with us. And what's the cost of development? He's going to talk about that. Realistically, are you putting a square peg in a round hole? So we're not going into this in a very abstract way. We're using the proper processes and making sure that we partner with the folks who know. We're not the economists he is, so we're working with him to make sure that we have the right pieces in place before we move forward. And he's also going to talk to us about the revenue sources. How do you pay for this? Mr. Bob will share that with us. So I'm going to invite Debbie to come forward. Debbie's going to take us through the action plan portion, and then after Debbie, then you'll see the vision of the concept plan from Mr. Alex, and then finally we'll wrap up with Bob, and we'll have closing remarks by our city manager. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya, and it's nice to see some of the same faces I saw the last time, and at some of the previous meetings where when we actually did the master plan. What I want to talk to you a little bit about tonight, really briefly, is how do we get here? This is not something that staff came up with. This is something that is a distinct beginning, and it goes beyond this. We were engaged in November 2012 to take a look at all the planning studies that have already been done. The city has been doing a lot of things over the years. They've had very important organizations come in and do work in the city. As Tanya had mentioned earlier, and as the city manager mentioned, there's been a lot of studies that have been done. Part of my job was to go in and take a look at all of those studies and say, okay, how does all of this fit together? And then how do I get people engaged in the process? Because these were professional studies that were done, but then we wanted to bring the community into the fray to kind of talk about these things. As Tanya mentioned, Bob worked very hard to create an economic piece. He looked at the constraints, the opportunities. We looked at the fiscal environment, all the constraints and opportunities, and kind of tried to bring all this together into a vision and create a redevelopment plan to implement that vision. Now, the plan covered these major corridors. However, for the purpose of what we're doing here, we're going to be focusing primarily on that gold section in there. But if you'll look at the black outline on here, this is the actual downtown. As Councilwoman Keys, sorry. I'm used to saying Councilman, sorry. It is more than just 125th. This is, in your future land use, this is the black outline actually defines what this looks like as far as the downtown. The plan included taking a look at everything from the economic conditions to the housing, the demographics, everything from what were the land use categories that you have, what are the zoning categories you have, and then Bob worked with us to prepare an economic and market analysis report that said, what are the demands for retail activity, what types of activities is there demand for that could be absorbed or brought into the city, as well as what type of businesses should come in here, what kind of opportunities. And we came up with several unique things. One is you have a very unique opportunity with Johnson & Wells to bring in demonstration kitchens and perhaps creating a culinary district in the downtown area here. And in the master plan, we've identified all of those things. We had a couple of business community workshops back in 2012, and some of you attended those. We took, at those meetings, we conducted surveys. The surveys looked at not only how the area was used, how were the streets used, what type of needs, what type of desires does the community have, and then we also looked at preferred architectural styles, so that we got feedback from the community as to, on this corridor, you want to see what type of architectural treatment. So with that, we looked at all of these, and this is just dealt with the physical form, what the city should look like. And I'm going to point out two important things. One, make it more pedestrian friendly, and one, create more public plaza areas, and you're going to hear more about that tonight. In the downtown area, it was supposed to create a unique character, a sense of place in the downtown, and have mixed use in the downtown. All of this resulted in, as Tanya noted, a group of strategies were created that have been preliminarily prioritized, high, medium, and low. And we're here and working on the next phase is what are the steps to take to create those strategies to make them happen. There are some keys to success in any type of redevelopment in the downtown. The first, and it's very common, the very first thing is to remember that it takes a while to do this. This is not something that's going to happen overnight. That you have to have the vision, a development plan, and implementation strategies. We're there. We're ready to go. You have to capitalize on what you have here. You have some very unique opportunities here. As I said, I mentioned to you the culinary opportunity. There's also another opportunity, is to bring student housing into the downtown. To link those priorities that you have in the action plan with your capital improvement plan. Tanya talked about what it's going to cost. Those things have to be pulled into the capital improvement plan. You definitely have to bring mixed use and residential into the downtown. The mayor spoke about the Downtown Action Plan Advisory Committee. That's very important because these folks are going to be the ambassadors for the plan. They're going to see it through no matter what commission is on, what council is on, where the staff is. This advisory committee will carry this through the long term. You have both of these. You have the political will, you have the council members here, you have the community support. We've had a lot of meetings here where people have turned out, just like tonight, to give their thoughts, their plans, their ideas as to what they want to see happen. So you have both of these things. Definitely the plan has built-in flexibility because things change. And one of the things that you have to remember is it has to be regularly updated because as projects are completed, you'll be adding new projects to the process. So the plan is not static. It doesn't sit on your shelf. It's tied to your capital improvement plan, but then you want to keep adding to it. You want to keep changing it. And finally, and most importantly, it really does have to recognize the fiscal limitations in both the region as well as the city. Now the action plan is where we are now. We're in the middle of creating this action plan, and that is putting that linkage between the plan and the implementation. Those are those steps. Now, there's a lot of things going on. These are the steps that we have been taking. I just want to let you know where we are. We already started this. We've completed this. We're here. And that is the creation of the Downtown Action Plan Advisory Committee. We are completing this tonight. We have completed the cost for the capital projects. And right now we are in the process of drafting the action plan. So we're going along. Things are moving along pretty quickly here. From the forum, two things. What did we hear? and what are the priorities? And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Bob Camber. And those are not, that's my dog.
Okay. Okay, I really hate microphones, but usually, can you hear me without it? Okay, thanks. You know, my mom reminds me I got a big mouth. All right, so the thing, like I said, at the last forum what wound up happening was that we had residents, business owners show up and basically take their time to inform the team about what are the ways to make things happen. I mentioned my mom a minute ago, and the reason I'm going to give you a quick preface. What we asked everyone to do was say, tell us what you want to see happen. Give us a strategy to be able to move forward. They wanted to hear from people that live and work in the community. One of the things that winds up happening a lot of times as a planner, you wind up speaking in your own talk too much. You know, I remember one time I was talking to my mom and I wound up using the term negative externalities. And my mom goes, what's that? I said, well, when things happen that you didn't expect or didn't want. She goes, why didn't you just say that? And I said, because you paid for a master's degree, got to prove my money went somewhere. And so the thing that we were really happy about is that you helped us, you know, basically come up with a layperson's way of saying, what's your priorities and what do we need to be looking at? We don't want to get into all the stuff behind the curtain about the great and powerful odds about how you do those things and whether or not you got to change this part of a code and everything else. But we did want to know what are the things that need to guide that. And with that in mind, I'm going to go over that very quickly. What also wound up happening was, from the initial plan, there are 5 areas that were identified. So you'll see at the top of each one of these, that's one of the first of the 5 areas was conceptual plan for downtown. And so what happened was we got the comments in from you, and then we grouped them into one of the 5 categories. Now, take into account that what you're going to wind up seeing is all this stuff has to work hand in hand. You know, you create economic opportunities while at the same time you may be addressing transportation issues, while at the same time dealing with the idea of, you know, creating cultural opportunities and social opportunities. And so basically one of the main things in terms of general themes, expanding the boundaries of downtown. Right now, the idea was from 6th Avenue, 12th Avenue, from 123rd to 126. Making the city more walkable. That was, that received 2 votes. And here's the other thing. I want to read this stuff to you. Can you see it very well?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so basically just going over the types of things, you know, going vertical in parts of downtown. Coming up with the design review board began to look at and putting in place a common theme. Adding bicycle lanes, making 125th Street 2 lanes. Wow, these are, okay, sorry. One of the important things, you're going to be able to walk downtown, you're going to need some shading. Another important one was that people felt about adding public gathering spaces. And what you'll see, that some of these things will happen, they will link into later on the idea of things like creating monthly meetings. And this, right, just a reminder that the students have come up with some ideas about how you can begin to look at some of the public spaces. Creating pocket parks for downtown, adding street furniture, public poles in public places. All of those things are going to work together. It's kind of almost like a general theme of create a public space, make it viable, make it walkable, make it accessible. Create activities within those places to make sure you get there. In order to come downtown, having parking garages for people to come downtown, visit, whether they're visiting, residents already live there, or coming to the businesses. Being able to move efficiently with the right turn lanes and proper traffic signs to guide you. Potentially looking at a bypass where you can basically keep local traffic local and remove some of the stuff that's obscuring the ability to come downtown, or not make it, when you come downtown, you first go, oh, I'm going to have to battle that traffic? And so that's one of the things to look at doing. Addressing, when I learned about your 5 points, which I understand is a fun intersection that you all love going there, you spend your time there as much as possible. Being able to look at the idea that the FEC corridor, that you have both Tri-Rail that's going to be trying to add the East Coast link, but you're also going to have being added there is all aboard Florida. And so North Miami is in the process of being able to have one of the stations for those activities and being able to link that activity to downtown and use a trolley to do it, so that people have to rely on a car. If they take the train from Palm Beach or take the train from Miami, they can stop, get on a trolley, come visit, and recreate in downtown. One other thing is coordinated with I-95 master plan, bicycle paths are very important, and also making sure you come up with a blueprint about, basically how you're going to deal with the architectural and streetscapes. The other one, creating economic opportunity. That was one of the important conversations about how do you make sure that you're going to be doing things that are going to move businesses, the businesses that are already there, maintain, grow, and then also attract new ones. Providing incentives and how you go about doing that. Looking at what's already there and how you build upon those. One of the other things is partnering with the universities and beginning to build off of the assets that you already have available. Johnson & Wales University as well as FAU, and being able to look at some of the, building incubators for restaurants there. Looking at a way of assisting homeowners with a kind of a facade paint improvement, so you begin to enhance the visual amenities of downtown and encourage more people to live and work downtown. You have people living in downtown, your downtown become a little more easier to function as an 18-hour downtown instead of when 5 o'clock comes, the business is shut down and it's kind of like a ghost town. So that allows for more activity and more investment in the area. Being able to get people downtown, residents as well as visitors. Doing monthly social mixers was one of the things to look at. Advertising these social events beyond North Miami. Some of the things that were brought up was advertising at the ports, and ports meaning airports as well as Port Everglades and Port Miami. Making sure these are activities that are happening after 5. Adding apartments, in residential downtown. Branding NoMi. So when if Madam Mayor, make sure I say it correctly. When you hear NoMi, you know that means you know us. NoMi. See? You got to brand me. All right. Figuratively. NoMi. So you know me is to know us. But being able to come up with that brand that is universal, and when people see that, they're thinking about here. It's part of, one of the ways to get in there. Closing off downtown and creating street festivals. There are various areas that do that very well. I lived for years and years in Tallahassee for both FAMU and FSU football games. Every Friday night for those football games, they close down their downtown and it becomes a functioning area with the restaurants are open, they have additional vendors, the kids are coming down and doing dance contests. Sort of Winter Park is also doing one of these where I think once a quarter in their CRA area, they actually close down the downtown, live bands, walkable area, and everything else. One of the other ideas was that enlarging the central business district. Now, take into account there's a central business district that resides within downtown. So those are two separate and distinct actions that also need to be looked at. Being able to look at how to basically attract and be tagging off of the businesses that are there at both ports. You have two of the most active commercial as well as retail ports in the country, and how can you begin to look at those businesses? Partner with Biscayne Park as part of some of the monthly activities. Relying on making sure your police presence is there, make sure people are that there's no perception, because that's what the worst thing is when people perceive an area as not being friendly or safe. So making sure that that perception never arises. Being able to look at using your civic center differently for trade shows, musicals, being able to attract new businesses. Once again, we mentioned the part about advertising. Once the brand is in place, the idea is hiring a public relations firm to help move that forward. Also being able to look at Miami becoming downtown North Miami being pet friendly and family friendly. Now all of those things are what wound up happening is we saw, because you saw 2 votes here, a vote here, 4-3. It shows that great ideas that had a shared diversity of opinion about those, but it means that those things are important. But there's one that did rise to the top that was the most popular strategy, was the idea of being able to create gateways as a central focus, potentially looking at a mega box at City Hall and Mocha. And so that was the priority that the attendees had identified. And so what wound up happening was we got this information. And then what has happened is that at the meeting last time, the attendees were shown a conceptual plan that was designed by the Cordino Group. And one of the things they've done is they've taken this information, they've heard what you had to say, and then Alex David is going to show you how they've taken that information, have visualized it for you, and at the back end of that, we're going to get some additional feedback about how well and effectively that has been done. Okay? All right, thanks.
Okay, thanks, Thomas.
Now, I'm trying to get the switch out of yours.
I think I'll read this. Good evening. My name is Alex David. I think I've been introduced several times already, but I'm with the Corradino Group. And here with me tonight is Donald Shockey, also with the Corradino Group, and Douglas Thompson from Landscape DE, who's done all of the rendering in our presentation. This is basically a little bit of a repeat from last month's meeting, but it's a good thing because we have many people who are not there, so it's good information. Basically, you're the project team. We listen to you. You're the constituents and stakeholders in the community, along with the city council and staff. So we're here to listen to your and gather your input, and then translate that vision. As Debbie stated, oh, there's Debbie, okay. Keith and Stars was tasked to do a major downtown development master plan, which consisted of a few different corridors. We're focusing more on the downtown area. As I stated, last month on April 17th, we had held the first forum in Wet Margalis Center. We're here tonight for the second one. Okay.
You need a microphone closer.
Basically, again, we're looking, this concept plan will serve as a foundation for public and private improvements for key civic spaces, downtown 125th Street, and the expanded area and the Civic Center complex. What's great about the city of North Miami is about 4 or 5 years ago, you all went through an update of your comprehensive plan, which is a future plan for the city, and also your zoning code. So you're, again, as I use the term, shovel ready. If some developer came in, you're ready to go with some of the projects or potential projects. They could be built under your zoning code. There were a couple parts that we were tasked with in our concept plan, looking at design elements, landscape, streetscape issues, key civic spaces, 125th Street from 6th to 9th Avenue, which has now been expanded a little bit, and I'll explain that. And then also eventually focusing on the Civic Center complex and the mega block. Came up with a few items that what we think makes a great downtown environment, and I got these actually from a group of students that I was judging something like this tonight, judging projects that they had, and each one of them had different wording. And what I took away from that is the following: a great downtown is defined, comfortable, safe, connected, and memorable. A couple months ago, 5-6 months ago, the mayor and council did take a tour of several cities, just to compare what they've done, their successes and failures in redeveloping downtown. One of those cities was Fort Myers. They took an alleyway and made it, and that's on the right side, Fort Myers, and this is on the left side is what we have along 125th Street, connecting 125th to the alley in the rear, Liberty Gardens Park. So you could redo Liberty Gardens Park, and that's the idea, to potentially have other uses in there instead of just a walkway. The council, and the mayor and council also went, and staff went to Delray Beach, Hollywood, And one thing that was taken away from all those experiences was that everything evolved from a vision. That was the one common element. Every city started with some plan at some point in time, and kept their word and developed as they envisioned. I'd like to show this photo. This is Sunset Drive in South Miami, and I'm not sure if it actually, how well it comes through, but this was your standard county road, 4 lanes or 5 with a fifth, turn lane, not really walkable. And the city of South Miami actually, I guess, took over several blocks of it west of US 1. The city hall is, and I don't know, the city hall, the historic building, the police department, and library are all on the south side of Sunset Drive with a very nice entrance. There's a reflecting pool. They put in palms in a median. They widened the sidewalk. This is very new. That's why the trees are still small, but they're growing and developing, so it's a very nice walkable street. This is something we did just to show massing and the buildings that are there and the buildings that are not there, and the height. The blue buildings are 1-story buildings. The reddish color are more than 1 story in height. And if you could, I don't know how clearly, again, it comes through, but the 2 highest buildings in this area are this police department building and the city hall. What I'd like to show about this, on this photo, or this rendering, is look at the number of Ps. No, P is for parking. What it shows you is there is quite a bit of underutilized space in downtown North Miami, all government owned. It's parking. Then this is just another view of what we were calling, I guess, the mega block at one point. The vast majority of the super block or mega block from 123rd to 125th, 8th to 7th Avenues is government-owned property, city-owned property, except for the northwest corner, which is privately owned. Again, one of the main items coming out of the Keith and Snars master plan was a couple things: slowing traffic along 125th Street, and I'm just boiling it down. Slowing traffic and having the opportunity for more shade and trees. And as we may or may not know, some of us know, the city's trying to get control of 125th Street from the state. It's now a state road, which creates its own issues. So there would be more, the city would be able to do a lot more with the street if it was under city control. Also part of the master plan that Keith and Snars completed were certain architectural design elements: Mediterranean, lots of more arcades and colonnades, awnings, transparency, which means seeing in and out of buildings, using certain shade trees and uplifting earth tones. So those were, again, the major design elements that came out of that plan. And these are kind of the fun slides. Or fun photographs, I should say. These are things you could do to really brand the community, to let you know you're coming into the city of North Miami's downtown. Doing crosswalks and a certain pattern brands the area, and it lets you, as I said, lets you know you're in North Miami. So there's a lot of flexibility with respect to that. These are just another couple of points. We were talking about civic spaces, and they're gathering points of plazas, gateways, pathways. They can be active or passive, recreational or cultural. So civic spaces can be a lot of different things. What do we want to do to revitalize downtown, or what can we do? We pulled out these 2 renderings out of a document. This shred was done in early 2000, adopted by the City Council in July of 2000, and this is the 5 Points intersection. So 14 years ago, there was a plan to create a roundabout. So as you all know, there have been issues with FDOT, and this has not come to fruition. But it was, back then, almost a decade and a half ago, a major thought. Today, we have 5 points, the northern side of 5 points, and what this is showing what potentially we could do with the triangle. As you know, it's very difficult to cross. So what we've done is put in a few more crosswalks and put in, it is a triangle, major intersection, no shade. What about putting in an iconic tree, a very large tree, and some, there are many artists in town. Why not have some type of iconic sculpture at that intersection, which also allows you to know you're in North Miami. It's the gateway to downtown. This is the chevron at 5 points. And again, this is private property, but your code allows you to do something like this. Right now, if the developer came in and purchased that property, you could develop a several-story mixed-use building close to the street with arcades or colonnades, glass, and eyes on the street. One of the other items we looked at is actually what we're now calling the 8th Avenue Linear Greenway. And what that is the connection from City Hall, the Civic Center Complex, MoCA, all the way up 8th Avenue to the high schools and the library. It's a very underutilized avenue, and it could be really a great walkway. And that's what these are two great hubs of activity, the educational facilities to the north, library, and the City Hall Civic Center to the south. So it's more than a 10-block, well, it is about a 10-block length of street that we're looking at to maybe potentially add shade trees and better sidewalks. And then this is just a close-up of one or a couple of the blocks. So with not a lot of infrastructure improvements, you can get in trees and sidewalks and crosswalks and lighting to emphasize the walkway. This we just found out is Liberty Gardens Park. It's breezeway we were talking about, going from 125th back to the alleyway in the 700 block, I believe it is, of Northeast 125th. And this is where we're getting into ideas that could potentially happen. The owner of the building, which is now a mural, could, in theory, open it up and have a restaurant. And it really activates that now kind of dead walkway to the alleyway in the back. Again, this is right out our front door here, Dixie Highway. And as we all know, the FDOT issue from many, many years ago, closing off West Dixie at 125th. Well, we have a park back here. Why can't we connect 125th to Griffin Park? So what we're talking about is with relatively simple capital improvements, starting to make it a better connection from 125th all the way back to Griffin Park. This is a final graphic of the shade trees, maybe some kind of gateway feature at 125th and on West Dixie to draw people back into Griffin Park, which is a bit underutilized right now. There could be potential for some entertainment space, stage, gazebo, something other than just a passive area to attract people down here. Another area we looked at was 132nd Street Fountain. It's at West Dixie and 132nd Street is the fountain that's really not working, and it needs to be upgraded a bit, but with some benches and some landscaping and trees, it could be a great public space for that neighborhood, for the immediate neighborhood. And again, there's redevelopment potential in the area to allow development along West Dixie Highway. Another idea is to take the side streets. This one is 7th Avenue. It's blank wall building, a couple parking spaces. What could you do to really activate the side street? It's a local street, no FDOT involvement, and with a willing business owner and with the city's assistance, obviously, for the parking, you could widen the sidewalk, put in shade trees, and allow cafes. Very simple to do. Again, and for those of you who were here last time, this building is right across from Mocha. With a little renovation and a little help, you could open up the top, the first levels there and create restaurants, which would overlook 125th Street and Mocha Plaza. Now, again, we had this view, this slide in here before, but just wanted to show you. This is the actual property owned by the city, except for the purple. So there's a very large area to work with. And last time we heard hearing about the mega block, some uses that would be that the public would like to see in this area. So the next slide is certain things we've heard, and then I'm going to turn it over to Bob quickly to, if there are any additions to this list, we're going to add them in.
Right. All right. Thank you. Yes. When I went back there to try to turn the lights out, I realized that I'll be 51 on Saturday, so my eyes aren't working as well as they used to. And so I'm not sure if all of you can see these. What I want to do is, based on, read them to you just to make sure, and make sure that the team has captured some of the things to try to look at, how to begin to look at and deal with the idea of the mega block and the Civic Center complex. And so some of the things that are listed as the things that you have previously indicated to us, as you want to see, is having some park and open space in that area, building off having a performance arts center, an amphitheater and stage, that will be outdoor, adding a water feature, having some retail in the area, having a historic museum, the city administration being in that area, and also a centralized parking garage in that area. Did we capture the things that you believe to be there correctly? By show of hands, let's see how many believe that this accurately best captures what you want to see there. Only 1, 2 people. Well, let me ask this question. If we haven't worded it in a way that that you're thinking about, that sometimes the words may be different, but the meaning may be the same. And so if we haven't worded it that way, very quickly, out of this, what's not on this list, what is something that's not here that you believe could be captured within that mega block, that Civic Center area? Any suggestions?
Would you go back to the map of the civic complex?
Okay, I'm sorry. All right, let's try it again. What I was saying was, there's a list of things that we had heard from you that could be included in the mega block. And I'm going to read those off there up here because you're not able to see them as well. Park and open space, a performing arts center, amphitheater stage, a water feature, retail, historic museum, city administration, parking garage. And what we were asking was, have we accurately or well, done it well, captured those types of things that you believe should be the priority activities for that mega block? And I'll say by show of hands, how many of you agree that we've captured those things properly? Okay. Okay, so we've only got a few of you who have raised your hands, so obviously there may be some things that we're not capturing. What are some of the things that we're missing? If you'll raise your hand and identify those. Yes, sir.
There are potential bus stop, the North Miami bus.
Okay, so the city commuter bus.
The city commuter bus
Okay.
has a stop right there, and people are sitting on the small retaining wall. There's no park bench or anything for them to sit.
So bus stop and amenities.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Any other suggestion? Yes, sir, over here. Great shirt.
Two things that I would say. The transportation hub to the civic bus stop, so like a nice area to sit down and wait until the bus comes. And also that water feature, should be a water feature mini park.
A water
Someone
feature, so
can
make
sit down
it,
while they're waiting for maybe their appointment or something like that.
okay, so use the water feature, the mini park, and also tie to the bus stop.
Right.
Okay. Commissioner?
Like a art museum as opposed to a historic,
Okay.
which is what we have, which is our motive.
I think it's in addition,
So you,
because if I could
all
clarify.
right, so you say either, is it either or? That's the question, ask that question. Do you want, so you want art and historical museum?
So I want an art museum.
Art museum, okay. All right, anyone else? I'm sorry, yes ma'am.
Is this the appropriate place for a electrical charging station? Charging station.
Okay, I mean, yes, you can always have electric charging stations at any of your public parking. Yeah. Anyone else with suggestions that we didn't capture? Yes, sir, back here by Madam Mayor.
Retail stores that will bring people to North Miami. Right now we have high price thrift stores that they do business through the internet and they don't bring people to North Miami.
So you want foot traffic retails?
We need retail shops. We need services. We need printing shops. We need things that the normal people can use. We need clothing store. We need shoe stores. We don't need any more furniture store or, like I like to say, high price thrift shops. We need retail stores, real retail stores.
Okay.
I've been a business person in the city for over 20 years, and I've seen the changes. And all the mom and pop businesses have disappeared. We have to bring that flavor to North Miami again.
Okay.
We have to stop the furniture stores. I mean, it has become, if they do business through the internet, if they're going to do business through the internet, they can do business from a warehouse district, not from a main corridor.
Okay. Hey.
As a reminder, we're talking about what goes in the Civic Center complex. That's a great idea, and we're going to make a note of that for the entire downtown and for the entire city. But
Hang on.
I thought I talked loud enough.
Yeah, come closer. You won't close.
My voice is, I guess I don't have as big mouth as I thought I did. This is a reminder that what we're talking about right now is just for the Civic Center complex. The great idea that this gentleman had is something that's been echoed through the business forums in the previous master plan that we are definitely looking at elsewhere, as well as in the downtown. But for right now, we're just going to focus on that Civic Center complex with the type of uses you want to see. From what we got before, we have those items up there. Now what we need from you is to find out what else we're missing.
Okay. And also, one thing we want to make sure that we talk about. This is not taking away uses. This is adding to them. So your law enforcement complex would still be there. Your city administration, those things are still there. MOCA is still there. What we're asking is, what are those things you can bring to that adds to it and then enhances that area? This gentleman right here.
About Wi-Fi zones in the public parks.
Okay, Wi-Fi zones in public parks. And right behind him? Yes, sir.
There's not much you can add to it because it's already a bunch of concrete buildings. Can you soften it up with trees, something like that, kind of evolve the appearance?
Okay. Yes, sir. Gray jacket.
What about something for the children?
What would you suggest? What would you suggest? We already had one suggestion about a park that.
North Miami is a young city and it's more family friendly. Like, create something around there that would force the family to come down to downtown.
Okay, so I'm going to record a park geared toward children. Okay. Yes, sir. Blue shirt. Yes, you.
I really haven't even, pardon that, this is my first meeting here. I guess I want to rewind a little bit to the bullet points that you had there. And I just wanted to bring out to the community, you know, as all of us here, for this clause in particular, are we looking for something that is really going to bring in economic development? Are we looking for more job creation? Are we looking for a wow factor in the community? So, I'm looking at a lot of these points, which they're all great, and I guess the decision we have to make as a community is that if we want just a place that is going to stay local, because a lot of these things that we're seeing here is more for the local community. When we look at, let's say, the park, okay, that's part, but is that really going to create economic development? Is that going to create more jobs? Is that going to create a revenue stream for the city? That's a decision that we have to look at. When we look at the Performing Arts Center, I think that's great. Is that really going to be a revenue-generating type of a business for us here? Is that what we're looking for? I guess I'm just bringing those questions out to all of us here to see where we want to go. The amphitheater is a great idea, but is it really going to, again, create the revenue? The water feature, the retail, I agree. I think retail, you definitely need retail here. You need to read that.
So I'm going to give Alex a chance to respond, so everyone can hear your inquiry about that. Okay?
I'm sorry.
I'm going to have Alex respond for everyone.
So
okay?
In general, I mean, I just wanted, I guess, to bring it out to everyone is that what do we want to see out of this as a community, and do you want to create the buzz that you can bring in people from the outside that are really
Okay. I'll make sure we give enough time for everyone. So we got your point. Thank you. Very good point, Alex.
I think we want to generate wows, generate people, and generate revenue. So those are the three things.
Jobs.
And jobs, revenue, yeah. Four things. So what I wanted to just show you on this list is some of these would-be revenue generators for the city. Performing Arts Center, if built, of course you would charge fees for performances. Same thing for amphitheater stage, possibly. Again, that's a city policy. Of course, retail would bring in revenue. Parking garage, again, that could be a source of revenue if it's mixed, retail and public parking. That is a potential revenue source, which I think Mr. Gray is going to get into eventually, who's the next part of the discussion.
And very quickly on that point, this is not an either or. One of the things you're looking at is the fact that this is property and space that already is under the public control, and so there's an ability to make investment there already. And so the idea is that you can make certain investments that's going to have a certain return, economic development, job creation. Okay. The idea is that this is not solely where economic development is going to happen. This happens to be property that's already under the public control, so you can limit the amount of investment that might have to take place. But you put an amphitheater there, people come downtown, but they also go a block